Alright everybody, so we have the much anticipated Rinoa event that released today. It just came out. So hopefully you guys have been grinding away at that, had a chance to get Rinoa. If not, don't worry, it seems like we've got 2 weeks, which is plenty of time to get through, I would say, most of it, even some of the harder stuff. So for those of you who haven't tried the Elite or haven't really found much information online, this is just going to be kind of some points, some tips, stuff like that. Just some information that I think will be helpful going into these boss fights, because the jump in difficulty, not just between this event and the previous events, but between the normal versions of the event dungeon and the elite versions of the event dungeon, is quite intense. So it's quite a jump in difficulty. I think a lot of people are excited about it because it's finally a really strong challenge, but also it presents sort of a dilemma, because I think a lot of people are underprepared for it. So this is just going to talk a bit about some things that you can do to maximize your potential to clear some of these dungeons. Just kind of a note ahead of time that there will probably be some bosses that you just can't clear, like especially the parade car, the last boss in the elite dungeon with Seifer and Edea. That's a really intense set of battles. It's very long, and just a lot of these fights are very long. You need a lot of honed abilities. You need a lot of damage mitigation and stuff like that, and luck. So don't get too frustrated if you can't clear some of it. The event will come back eventually, and a lot of the events, a lot of the elites, I think, in this are just kind of for the challenge of it, not necessarily that you have to clear it to progress or anything like that. So I just got Rinoa, so I thought I'd start with the first tip for maximizing your potential in the dungeon. Is obviously you want to use Rinoa. She's a very strong mage. I would say up there, if not better than Terra. And you want that synergy. You want all the synergy you can get in this. So before you attempt any of the elite dungeons as well, I would suggest that you get the Galbadia armor and I think the sword combined and maxed as soon as possible. You'll probably want the Galbadia sword on your strongest fighter and your armor on your frontliner. I'll get more into that later. But so Rinoa is only level 1. So for those of you who have seen my previous video, you know that I talked about how to maximize your memory farming, and by doing that you would reset the dungeon retreat until you got number 24. This is, for those of you who don't know, there's a way to maximize your XP potential by farming these guys, the flans. So if this pops up in the first one, this is 4 stamina, and you get 15,000 15,000 experience for clearing it. So all you have to do, you can kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone. You can just put your summoner in. I haven't leveled my summoner hardly at all, and Rinoa, who's level 1 in, and you can just, it gets tedious, but it's even better rates of experience than the Sunday Daily Dungeon. So if you do this, if you spam this whenever you have time, you don't have to do it all the time. I'm sure you'll get burnt out or whatever. That's no problem. Like I said, we have 2 weeks for this event, so there's plenty of time to go around and farm and come back to elites maybe that you couldn't clear before, or that you're afraid to try out yet. So no need to rush into anything. So I'll probably get Rinoa maybe 40 or higher before I attempt some of the elite fights that I'm going to talk about. So first step is get your Galbadia armor and sword up as strong as it'll go, and get Rinoa up there so you've got as much synergy added on to your party as possible. Next, I'll go ahead and talk about the boss fights, the individual boss fights, and some will work well for this. So I'll just start with kind of a general blanket statement that personally I plan on going probably cloud. This is just what I'm going to try. As I do these elite dungeons, I'll make videos of them and post them so you can see what I actually use. But this is just kind of what I'm kind of debating in my head right now is one frontliner, because you take a lot of physical damage. So one frontliner with your Galbadia armor. I'll do that with Cloud and Retaliate, and basically 4 support and mages in the back. So, maybe 2 healers, or maybe 1 heal spell and 1 offensive spell, boost, breaks, stuff like that. If you have Protect God, this will come in really handy. If you can get Kieran, there's a lot of AoE attacks that do fair amounts of damage, so Kieran I think will come in handy for a lot of these battles as well. So the first one in the series is Edea. Now she's got a very heavy magic. She's a very heavy magic user. You can see here, single target. They're all single target with her, and she buffs herself. So no weaknesses, very debuff. Immune. So really your best bet here is if you have Celeste, if you have her relic Soul Break, that'll be really useful, because all of the Fire Agas, the Blizz Agas, and the Thund Agas, you'll be able to absorb those as long as you have her Soul Break. So if you have her relic weapon, it might not be a bad idea if you can, although given the difficulty of even the trash mobs in this event dungeon, if you can, it might not be a bad idea to try to get maybe two charges of her Soul Break geared up before in the trash mobs before her the fight with Edea, to help absorb more of that. You could also run Reflect and just have somebody spamming Reflect. Then if you had Reflect and Protect Ga, then that would pretty much negate most of her damage, especially with breaks and stuff like that. So that's another option. Now, I'm not sure about this, but the later versions, because you'll fight Seifer and Edea several times throughout the game, including like the regular Final Fantasy VIII dungeons, and in those, Seifer typically has strong attacks, and he's armor break and power break resistant. Now he's not resistant to breaks in this, but I did notice that my melee attacks did less damage to Seifer than they did to Edea, so I'm pretty sure that it's the same kind of pattern, in that Seifer is more vulnerable to magic. He'll take more damage from magic but less from physical, and vice versa for Edea. So you may just want to do Reflect, Protect Ga, Break, Boost. Like I'm going to use Cloud, so boost Cloud, Retaliate, and then just have your 4 mages just attack Cloud and just spam melee against her. You'll be protected from most of her magic, as long as you have enough casts for Reflect. And that's one way to approach it. That's the way I'm thinking of approaching it. But just if you want to burst her down more, if you have room for armor breaks, mental breaks, those things, you can bring those along as well. So again, we have quite a bit of time for this event, and we just got heroic versions of daily events now. So some of these, non-elemental orbs, these 3-star stuffs for these breaks and the Aga spells and stuff like that. You could technically, if you want to get Rinoa and then just spend an entire week doing nothing but dailies to farm up orbs and to hone abilities and stuff like that, I think that would actually be a pretty good idea. And then take a stab at some of these elite dungeons and see how you do. If you clear it, great. If not, kind of assess where you are in terms of where your shortcomings are and what you might need to farm before you try to take it on again. So the first one is Edea. Obviously you fight her twice. You fight her individually on her own, and then in the last dungeon, with Seifer and Edea in succession. So the next one is, oh no, this isn't the next one actually. It's the Archaeousaur. This guy. So this guy, if anybody's on Reddit or anything like that, you've obviously seen the 150,000 HP comment, and everybody's kind of hyped about that, and that is true. He does have a lot of HP, so he will take a very long time. You will likely run out of abilities, or at least close to it. So you'll want stuff as honed as possible. You might, like I said, you might want to take a week off just to level up Rinoa and just to try to get some extra, even, if you can get one hone of 3 or 4 extra skills, that can be the difference between clearing this and not. So he's completely physical. You don't need Magic Break on him, so don't bother bringing Magic Break. It's a waste of a skill. Make sure you save that ability spot for something more vital. So he does single target and AoE. I haven't done this yet, but somebody else tried it. They said his straight damage unmitigated with his tail lash was 700 damage. So you figure Power Break, and if you have Protect Ga, you don't have to use both of those at the same time, because he said it was about 300 with Power Break. So if you stagger those, you do Power Break and then you throw out Protect Ga. And then, after maybe 5 rounds of Protect Ga, you throw up another Power Break. You can kind of stagger those to get yourself through that long fight. I wouldn't say at 300 if you have, let's say, so I have Kieran, I have 2 casts of Kieran. So maybe I'll do Power Break and then throw up Kieran, and I'll have regular heals and stuff too. So I think the point of this fight, unless you have really high hones of a lot of your abilities, is just going to be keeping yourself alive through the entire fight. And I think staggering those abilities, don't put everything on at once. Don't do Protect God, don't do Power Break, don't do Kieran all at once. Maybe just do one, Kieran and one of the other ones. If you just want 2 straight single target healers and don't want to use Kieran or don't have it, that's fine, But just something to consider. So vulnerable to ice. So you'll want a lot of Blizzaras, Blizzagas, Ice Spellblades. And then he's very debuff vulnerable. So you can blind him. Blind him would he would miss a lot of his attacks. That's probably actually a pretty key strategy to win. But again, if you want to just go straight damage mitigation, that might be viable as well. So blind is a solid choice. If you can paralyze him, if you can sleep him, those are all good choices. But remember, if you sleep him, you'll want to sleep him and then just skip your melee attackers and just use all of your spells first, and then go to your spell blades and your physical, and then switch over after you've slept him. That would actually not be a bad idea, because then you could do all of your damage up front with taking no damage. Then you can go into your breaks and your Protect Ga and your other abilities to help you mitigate that damage, and you're kind of starting with a really, really nice head start in that respect. So this, I think, would be another battle where I think 1 melee in front and maybe 4 supports behind, mages and support in the back row, would help maximize your damage mitigation. But again, this is just me theorizing. It's been a long time since I went through this in the Japanese version, and I remembered that I didn't clear, I gave up, I quit. I think I only got about half of the elites done. So it's kind of me going back through trying to remember, a good way to do this. So next, Iguion, or however you pronounce it. Iguion, whatever. This one, there's 2 of them, and they have 53,000 hit points each. So if you have AoE abilities, so for those of you who have Quake, this is the perfect battle to use it on, because they're vulnerable to Earth. So if you can spam Quake, that's perfect. But one of the special scores is Holy, which is Edea. So you'll want Edea if you want to get that special score, and the Holy damage is pretty significant. So I think Edea is worth bringing along, especially if you don't have Quake. So this boss is really, really obnoxious, and the reason why is the Magma Breath. The damage is not so bad, especially if you magic break them, but the petrify chance is really obnoxious, and I would peg it probably somewhere at 20%. I mean, it's not like a 5%, it's pretty significant. Even in the normal version of the dungeon, I got 2 of my characters got petrified on 1 magma breath. So I mean, you can even have multiple characters get petrified. It's very obnoxious. So one thing to keep in mind, though, if you're close, let's say you get through and you've got one almost dead and you've killed the other one and you get petrified, don't worry about that. Just clear the dungeon, because petrified does not count as a KO. It won't hurt you in your KO score. So even if you have 4 people petrified and only 1 alive and you clear the dungeon, you'll still get max on your KOs. So don't worry about petrify affecting your KO score. If you still think you can get through it with a petrified character, don't worry about resetting or anything like that. So it's not that big of a deal. But I'm kind of debating what to do about this, because if you take Stona to remove petrify and your Stona caster gets petrified, then you can't do anything about anybody else getting petrified. You could bring 2. You could put it on 2 different characters. You could do just create 2 different Stonas and put them on 2 different characters, but then you're wasting more and more ability slots, and it really will hurt you in terms of being able to mitigate damage and deal out damage. So I'm kind of still not sure about this. I mean, you could technically just hard close it and reload the battle if you get petrified right away, or you get petrified to the point where you wouldn't be able to clear the dungeon. But I think that would take you forever. I don't think that would be a very viable strategy, although I think it could work eventually with enough times. Their debuffs, they're very resistant, so I mean, you can't even slow them like you can a lot of other bosses. Your options are pretty much only to break them, power and magic break. So they're tricky. Not so much. I wouldn't expect people to die from the damage as long as you've got magic break up, and you've got probably, I would say, 2 healers, but you'll definitely want Kieran and a full-time healer, or Kieran and 2 different heals on other people if you have it. It's just the petrify is really obnoxious. And then Seifer. So again, like I said, I think Edea is more vulnerable to physical attacks, and Seifer is more vulnerable to magic attacks. So you'll see here that poison, he's vulnerable to poison. So Bio or Biora, if you have those, great. Those will really help you. But I think magic in general is strong against him. So if you only have, if you don't have enough orbs to hone Bio or Biora a lot, I wouldn't worry too much about it. If you prefer, to put all your orbs towards Blazara and Blazaga and other spells for the Archaeousaur, go ahead and do that, and then just bring those in and use those on Seifer. But you'll want to use Bio or Biora just for the special score, because you need to attack him with a poison attack. So you see he's got a single target physical and all target fire. So you'll need, his physical attack is pretty strong too, but his AoE is really going to be what hurts. So you definitely need magic break. Again, Kieran, because there's a lot of AoE now, and it's not like it's 50 damage or 100 damage. It's going to be even with breaks, it's going to be 200, 300 damage. So people have talked about holding off on Kieran until the quest system comes out because you get to make it anyway. Well, the only 2-star summons that are out are Dragon and Kieran. And, given that the Kieran, no matter how much you hone it, it doesn't share any orbs with the 3-star summons, I think it would be better just to focus on your 2-star orbs on Kieran and your 3-star orbs on, Shiva and Ramu and Ifrit, those ones for damage. I wouldn't worry too much about Dragon, Yeah, I'd prefer Kieran, especially for fights like this. So he's got quite a few immunities, but slow does work on him. So if you have Sloga, perfect. I think Sloga comes with 4 uses to begin with, so you'll have enough slows to keep him slowed the entire fight. Protect maybe. His physical, especially if you're running 1 front row and 4 back row, the damage won't be that bad, especially if you have power break as well. So he's not too bad, especially like I said, if you can keep magic break on him and go Kieran up. So I think I've been reading a lot of comments people have been making about their experiences with these bosses so far, and I think the biggest mistake people make is underestimating the amount of damage that they can inflict on top of how much they can sustain. So, up until now, most fights, even, some of the real challenging elite dungeons like Bygone and stuff like that, people were able to just build completely damage. I'm just going to nuke him before he can kill me, like Bygone and Magza and Forza and stuff like that. But you can't do that. Nobody, unless you have, just insane amounts of farming and you have a lot of these abilities really honed, it's going to be really hard to, like with the Archaeousaur, to do 150,000 damage without getting mauled first. And so this is what I've talked about in a lot of my other videos. These elite fights are going to give you a taste of what I've been talking about in terms of your need to balance your damage output with your damage that you take. So really try to think about what the strengths of your party are, what items have you drawn. I still don't have any 5-star weapons, but I'm going to give a lot of these a go anyway because I'm still saving my mithril. And like I said, as I update or as I try these elites, if I find successful strategies and stuff like that and parties and I'm able to get champion clears and stuff like that, I'll definitely make videos and upload them so you guys can get an idea for what kind of strategies work. But good luck. I think this is an exciting event. I know I'm excited to go back through this again and see if everything I've learned pays off in my ability to put together a strong party for these challenging elite fights. So I know it's been quite a long video, and I apologize for that, but I wanted to get really thorough about the individual fights because I think each fight is very unique and requires a very unique strategy. So don't expect to go into these four fights with the same setup even with necessarily the same characters, but for sure the same abilities. If you go, one set of abilities will work really well for that, and it will completely get you destroyed in the other one. So each of these is going to require a very unique approach. Even if you use the same type of strategy, you'll still need different abilities. You'll want to maximize everything that you can. So that's it. I'll try to make more event videos, and like I said, give you guys kind of an idea of what works and maybe what doesn't. So succeed or fail, I may go ahead and upload the videos that the battles that I fight, just hopefully as a way to provide you guys with something you should do or something you shouldn't do. Hopefully something you guys can learn from, for those of you who haven't tried it, or hopefully if I succeed, to those of you who haven't been able to clear it, maybe to give you some ideas to get through it. So let's see how this event goes, and I hope you guys do really well with it, and I'll see you in the next video.